Hey guys, welcome back to the new Live Life Simple Kitchen, and today we are honored by having the new Avid Armor Euro series, which is finally going to compete with the higher end Vac Masters, which are kind of meant for more of a commercial type setting, or for us freeze dryers, very helpful for freeze drying since we're constantly packaging. So today we're going to unbox the new Euro series. We're also going to compare it with my favorite, the ES41, and see how it kind of stacks up, and we'll go over some of the features, some of the new things, pros and cons, and just a total review and overview coming up. So first things first, the box is quite a bit bigger of the Euro series, so I would guess that it's probably going to be quite a bit bigger. But I want to get the ES41 out of the way because I don't want it to be a distraction or a takeaway from what the Euro series is. So let's get this unboxed. We'll kind of check out what comes in the box and then get our first impressions here. There's just a quick start guide. Not sure what this is. It almost looks like a cutting board or something. I'm guessing that's not what it is though. And I'm gonna set this on the ground because it is mighty hefty. Quite a bit heavier than the ES41 is. In fact, it's so heavy that I think I wanna go weigh it because this thing's gotta weigh 50 or 60 pounds. 54 pounds, 13 ounces. I was really close, and hopefully that means quality. So what else comes in the package? It looks like this comes with a service kit pump. Avid Armor always sends this little avocado squishy thing to show you that it's been tested and sealed. Here's a real user manual, not just a PDF file, which is kind of nice. Allen wrench. Sample pack of 8x12 bags. Well, my first impressions are very good ones. It's very solidly built, not discounting the ES41 at all, but many of the components in the ES41 are plastic, whereas this is all stainless steel. This is why it weighs so much more. Everything is just built very solid. The plexiglass on the top is really thick and heavy. I mean, just the hinges and everything just feel very quality. The controls look very polished and quality. But the ES41 does cost almost twice as much as the ES41. So let's dig maybe a little bit deeper and see why, other than just the build quality. So one of the first major differences is that this is actually made in the Netherlands, and it's made with a Bush pump. So your vacuum pump is something that's made from a manufacturer that's well known for vacuum pumps, and they obviously are very proud of it. They put it on pretty much all of their advertising and all of their literature. So this pump is probably more sophisticated than what you would find in the ES41. In fact, the first step, but when you plug this in, before you use it for your first time, the pump actually needs to be calibrated, which takes 15 minutes. I'm going to do that right now. That way this is done while I'm going over some of the other specs. And that process is easy enough. You just turn the power button on. Letter C will pop up. We're going to close the lid. That's going to give us our timer for 15 minutes. And from what I can tell, this is just the initial lubrication of the pump. And this is a real deal quality vacuum pump. It has an oil level meter. And as I was reading in the literature about this pump, it actually does the same thing that a Premier pump for freeze drying does, where it separates moisture away from the oil, which will really help the longevity of this pump. So the pump calibration is not just for the first time you run it. It's also recommended that you do it after the machine is sat for a while, or if you're doing a lot of high moisture content foods. If you're freeze drying, you don't really have to worry about that, but it is recommended. So that's pretty cool. It flips open by itself when it's all done. So now that that's done, let's talk about the oil. The oil being the oil in a non-sealed type system vacuum pump. So you can look at this two ways. I think that having an oiled pump like this that is constantly being maintained will make it last lots longer than a sealed type system, which I would imagine is what is in the USV. Don't quote me on that. But that also means that you're going to have to maintain it, just like you have to always maintain a vacuum pump. So you're going to have to replace oil. This says every 6 months, but I would guess that depends on the type of use you're using this for. With freeze-dried food, probably quite a bit less because there's not I mean, there's not supposed to be any moisture in it. So other than changing the oil in this every 6 months or however long it's recommended, the only other thing that I can see that needs maintenance regularly is the oil exhaust filter, which is just like the freeze dryer. And I would imagine that's where this service pump kit comes in. There's some directions here on the back, but I think this probably calls for another video as I get used to this thing and get to using it and get to the point where it needs a service. That'll be an upcoming video. And there is a maintenance schedule that's inside of this manual. A lot of it's pretty common sense, but if you want to keep this thing in tip-top shape, which I would imagine you would, it's a pretty big purchase, then just follow the guidelines just like you would anything else. There's also an entire section in here for the vacuum pump maintenance and how to do it, which is very helpful. So let's put these head to head for a second, and really what I wanted to talk about is the chamber size. And I was really bummed out when I first opened this. In fact, I don't know if I caught it on camera, but I was thinking that right away, great, it's not gonna be able to seal ball jars. So initially I grabbed a ball jar, set it down in here, and thinking, yeah, it's not gonna happen. But this has an accessory port, just like the other Avid Armor vacuum chamber sealer that I had reviewed earlier. It has the accessory port, which the USB does not have, which I actually think is better than putting it into the chamber because you can control the amount of vacuum a lot better. I don't know if you've seen, but these jars can explode if they're vacuumed too long. So if you're gonna be vacuuming ball jars or mason jars, and that's a big part of why you want one of these machines, I would definitely get the accessory that you can put into this accessory port. And I would also recommend doing your research on how long to vacuum seal these so you're not putting yourself in danger from exploding ball jars. Either that or Avid Armor does sell the vacuum sealable containers as well as many other companies do. But back to the chamber size, they're pretty close to the same size. This is a little bit bigger, and it does have this bubble top that will allow for a bit of extra room on top. The seal bar on both of these is the same size, and they will do a 10 by 14 Mylar bag. Controls and functions are pretty much the same. You have an auto vac and seal. You have just a seal. You can control the vacuum and the seal amount or time on both of these. They do both have a pressure gauge that will tell you if 99% of the oxygen has been removed. And getting to that accessory is pretty simple. We just hit this conditioning button, and then we hit the cursor. That will go to E. E stands for external vacuum hose. So really what you came here to see is to see this thing vacuum. So I'm going to take some stuff that I freeze dried and put an oxygen absorber in, but this was a pre-Avid Armor and pre-vacuum chamber vacuum sealing all of my freeze dried food. So I'm going to open this up and throw that in the vacuum sealer. And this is apple cinnamon oatmeal from 2019, and the good news, it looks good still. So one cool thing that I can see already that I like is that when this is done, it automatically flips the lid open. So if you're doing package after package, then that will be awesome. It's not a huge deal, but with the USB32, when you're done, you're opening, closing, opening, closing. This thing, if you had several bags just lined up and ready to go, you pop them in there, put the lid down. As soon as you put the lid down, it starts vacuuming, and then as soon as it's done, it pops back up. You're ready for the next one. So if you're in a commercial setting or you're doing a ton of freeze drying or a ton of food storage like this, that will add up and make a big difference, I think. So the difference between chamber vac sealed and not chamber vac sealed, at least for freeze dried food, is just night and day. This is now just a solid brick. It also makes it easier to store because it sucks all the air out of the bag. And if you're strategic about it, you can make this sit a lot more flat. Like some of these other bags that I've done, you can make them so they're real thin, and they store so much nicer. And really, now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of makes me want to go back and reseal all of my freeze-dried food because when you have hundreds and hundreds of packages of freeze-dried food, it ends up taking up a lot more space, whereas with the vacuum sealed stuff, it compacts it down. It pulls 99% of the air out of the package instead, and it just makes it so it stores so much nicer. And for me, this just makes me that much more excited about food storage and freeze drying. Both of these are still very good machines. This one obviously has a few more perks. I think it's probably made quite a bit better. It's also twice the price. I love this USB 32. I've been using it for probably 6 to 8 months now, and I've never had a hiccup with it, and it does a wonderful job for what it is. Spending the extra money on the Euro line, you'll have to make that decision for yourself whether it can justify that extra cost. I think that if you're doing a high quantity of stuff, it's definitely worth the extra investment. I love Avid Armor, and I love that they give my viewers and my supporters 10% off, which is a huge discount. You can go through the link in the description and they'll give you 10% off. You can use the promo Live Life Simple. It's pretty much free money if you're already purchasing one anyway. So in the meantime, this is Retired at 40. Remember to live life simple. We'll catch you next week.